Welcome back to Prep Station Biology UTME 2025. So we were talking about transport system and transport in man. And I said transport in man is made up of a circulatory fluid, a pumping organ. Now, the circulatory fluid is the blood. This is the blood. We have a pumping organ, which of course is the heart. Then we have blood vessels, which of course are the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries. Okay, let's see what they do. So what is the blood now? The mammalian blood is made up of 55% fluid called plasma. So let's say if this is the blood here, let's say this is the blood, this is your blood here, divide it like this. Let's say this is 55%, that would be the plasma, and 45% is what? The cells. So when you talk about the cells, we have the red blood cells, we have the white blood cells. Okay, so now, there are three major blood types or blood cells. The red blood cells, also known as the erythrocyte, the white blood cells, also known as the leukocyte, and the platelet or the thrombocyte. Okay, so let's look at the functions of the heart. Let's look at the function of the heart. The heart is a muscular organ and it pumps blood throughout the body, delivering oxygen. So what are the functions of the heart here? And we're looking at the function of the heart. I already told you that the major work of the heart is to ensure that blood moves around the body of the organisms. And in the blood, we have some items that are there, such as oxygen, nutrients, we have some hormones too. Now, the blood moves blood, the heart rather moves blood using some different systems. We have the systemic circulation, we have the pulmonary, and we have some valves. Let me quickly explain what I mean by that. Now, if this is somebody's heart, which I believe you should guide very well. Now, let's say this is somebody's heart. Now, what we have here is the lung, and what you have here is the body, right? So now, this is divided into two because the left-hand side of the heart and the right-hand side have blood and are different, so they must not mix. So this is the septum. Now, what I'm saying is that we have the systemic circuit or the systemic circulation. Systemic circulation means that blood comes from the heart, it goes to the body, and it back to the heart. So blood comes here, goes to the body uses up the content of the blood. So the blood that was oxygenated before will now become deoxygenated and it's no longer useful. So the body has a way of sending it back. So this is oxygenated and this is it goes back to the heart. Then the heart now, which is the pulmonary circulation, send the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. It is here that oxygenation will now take place. So carbon dioxide in the blood is taken out, carbon dioxide goes out, then oxygen comes in. So by the time this blood is now oxygenated, it goes back to the heart. So this one here is the systemic circulation or the systemic circuit, while this one here is the pulmonary. Pulmonary, it has to do with lung, pulmonary circulation. Then we have valves. These valves help your blood to move in one way. It gives the blood a unidirectional movement such that blood doesn't flow backwards. Okay, then we have the blood vessels. We have the arteries, we have the veins and the capillaries. Please, I hope you know the function of all of them. Your artery is very thick-walled, the vein is not, and the capillary is very, very light. That is because of the functions that all of them perform. Okay, then look at the question that we have here. The primary structure responsible for pumping blood for circulation throughout the mammalian circulatory system is the left ventricles. Please don't be confused. I'm sure you'll be looking for heart, right? Yes. The point is, if this is the blood here, let's assume, just look at me. This is where my heart is here, right? Look at the previous diagram that I gave you, right? If this is the heart here, we have the atrium, and we have the ventricle, right? So if this blood is coming from, this one is coming from the lung, it is this that will now send it to the body. So it is what? The left ventricle. Is it clear now? It is the left ventricle. Please don't make mistake. Now, the next one. Circulation of blood to all parts of the body except the lungs is true. To all parts of the body except the lung is systemic. I told you earlier, it like to all parts of the body except the lung is systemic. Then the blood component that has the greatest affinity for oxygen, that is erythrocytes. Let's look at it. C, that is your red blood cell because it has hemoglobin that can bind to oxygen. Then the fourth one, blood circulation in a mammal is said to be double because it has what? Now, it passes twice through the heart in a complete circuit. It moves in both arteries and veins. It circulates in both the heart and the other organs. The heart contains auricle and ventricle. Your answer is A. It passes through the heart twice. Now, look at the diagram I drew for you. You will discover that the blood will come from the body, it goes to the heart sends it to the lung for the oxygenation, then from the lung, it comes back to the heart. So it has passed through the heart 2 times. There are some organisms that blood passes through them just once. For example, fish. You get? But in mammal, blood passes through the heart 2 times. So we have what we call double circulation. Okay, lack of nucleus is a feature in, it's not osteocyte, that is blood, bone. It's not neuron, the answer is erythrocyte, which is red blood cell. Why? Your nucleus your red blood cell does not have nucleus, so that it can have a large surface area to accommodate what? More oxygen. That is why it doesn't have the nucleus. Then, the correct pathway for blood flow from the heart to the tissue of mammals. From the heart to the tissue of mammals, I told you earlier, just always make reference to that diagram. From the heart to arterial, from arterial to artery, then to tissue. Arterial is a smaller vessel, so arterial cannot be coming ahead of artery. You get? It's a smaller tissue. How can something small empty itself into something big? It's not possible. But now let's look at it from the heart to your artery to the arterial to the tissue. Yes, the answer is B. The answer is B. Okay, now the number 7. The left and right heart chambers are separated by a wall of tissue called, when I drew that diagram I gave you, the answer is step 2, A. Okay, now which of the following is a characteristic of arteries? Characteristic of arteries. They possess thin wall. No, arteries do not have thin wall, they have thick wall. Why? Because the blood coming from the arteries is high pressured blood. So if they do not have a thick wall, it can burst. So it needs a thick wall so that it can expand when the pressure is high to accommodate the blood coming. Then it contains valves. An artery that has blood that is high pressure, does it also need valve again? No, the pressure is high already. So there is always something pumping the blood. There's no need for a valve to keep it flowing. Now, ending as capillaries, that is our answer. Your arteries end as capillaries. Now, the next one, the medium in which dissolved nutrients are transported in the body of vertebrates is called latex, urine, cell sap, and blood. Our answer is blood. So now we'll be looking at ecology of population, which is study of population. Now, it's the study of relationship between organisms and their environment. That means how living organisms and their non-living counterparts relate. Okay, so let's look at the components of an environment. We have the biotic components, which of course are the living component. For example, in this place where we are, in the place where you are, you have some organisms that are living and some items that are not living. There's a table, there's a chair. Those are abiotic components. But the human beings that are there, the animals around you, the pets that you have around you, they are the biotic component. Okay, so we have the plant, animals, then the abiotic component. We have the atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere, right? Then we have habitats, we have the niche, we have population, we have community and ecosystem. Okay, so let's look at the questions that we have here. Now, high birth rate and high immigration rate, that's number 1. Low birth rate and high immigration rate, number 2. Low mortality rate and low immigration rate. High mortality rate and high immigration rate. Which combination of the above can cause rapid overcrowding in climax community? What is a climax community? A climax community is a kind of community that can it is self-sustaining. It has gotten to a level that it can sustain itself. You get? It can sustain itself. It is kind of balanced. Okay, so they're asking us that what do you think can cause rapid overcrowding? They say high birth rate, yes. High immigration rate. Immigration means that what? People are coming. Yes. So that one can cause it can cause it. Let's look for another one. Low birth rate. Low birth rate cannot cause overcrowding. So option 2 is out. Number 3, low mortality rate. That means the rate at which they are dying is low. It can also cause it. And low emigration rate. That means the rate at which people are living, other organisms are living is also low. So this can also cause overcrowding. So we have 1 and 3. Let's look at the fourth one. High mortality rate. That means they are dying at a very fast rate. And high emigration. That means they are also living at a fast rate. So this one will negate the first point. So we have only 1 and 3. Let's see. Our option is option B, which is 1 and 3. So we are correct. Let's move to the next one. A space containing a group of interactive organisms. A group of interactive organisms is called dash. Community, habitat, ecosystem, population. Don't make mistake. Your answer is community. You have been told that interactive organisms, they are not supposed to be of the same species because they are organisms. So they do not belong to the same species. You get now? Then let's look at the next one. The entire habit, that is the behavior, the function, the role, and habitat of an organism can be described as the niche. Let's look at it. Niche, ecological niche. So it talks about where an organism stays and what the organism does in that place. Okay, so let's move on. The stable self-sustaining environment produced by an interaction between the biotic and abiotic component is best described as, they said, the stable self-sustaining environment produced by an interaction between the biotic and the abiotic component is described as a niche, no, a community, no, an ecosystem, then population. Our answer is C, an ecosystem, because it is actually the interaction between the living and the non-living. They said biotic and the abiotic, the living and the non-living. Okay, the physical space occupied by an organism together with its functional role, you know it already. The answer is niche. Don't be confused. In the first question or the question that we solved earlier, it was ecological niche. And the same JAMB, all the questions here are all JAMB past questions. So the same JAMB is also giving this one and they are putting niche there. It's the same thing. Don't be confused. Okay. Now let's look at this. A caterpillar and an aphid living in different parts of the same plant, pay attention, can be said to, remember, a caterpillar and aphid do not belong to the same species. So if they are not in the same species, it is possible that they do not have different role. They do not have the same role. So let's look at it. Be in similar microhabitats, occupy the same ecological niche, be in different habitats and occupy different ecological niche, even though they are found in the same place. So their habitat is the same thing, but their role is different. So they occupy different ecological niches. Why? Because the two of them are not of the same species. If you see a doctor and a pilot having the same office, they have different roles. The office might be what connects the two of them together, but their functions are different. Okay, which of the following processes is not due to interaction between the biotic and abiotic component? That is the living and the non-living components. We have the soil nutrients depletion. Of course, this can be due to activity of living organism, condensation, decomposition, osmosis. This is just movement of water molecules. So the answer is D. Number 8, the following are abiotic components of the ecosystem except abiotic, non-living components. Bacteria is living, right? The following are abiotic, non-living. Bacteria is living, topography, no. Water is none, wind, none. Then the answer is what? A, bacteria, because that is the only living organism among the options. Now, the next one. Which of the following does not contribute to the biomass of the ecosystem? Like, it does not contribute to the amount, size of living organisms that we have there. Of course, it's habitat. This is producer, consumer, microorganism. You get? So the answer is what? Habitat. Number 10. The difference between a community and a population is, now stay with me. A community is a group of organisms of different species, while a population is a group of organisms of the same species. So that's why they said community of students, community of these, okay, in this our community, they say this community now, they are looking at everybody, all the animals there, including our cousins, the lizard and all those animals that share the same evolutionary relationship with us. Okay, so let's look at this. A community is made up of organisms of the same species? No, it can't be the same species if it is community. Then a community is made up of populations of living organisms, while a population is made up of organisms of the same species. Listen to this. A community is made up of populations of living organisms. That means we can have different populations in a community. In a community, you can go and count how many human beings that we have there, how many chickens they have, how many goats are there, how many of these are there. If you have a fish pond now, you can count how many species of fish you have in your pond, because that's a community of fishes. Okay, so our answer for this question is B. Okay, so let's look at nutrition. Nutrition. Now, what do you all know about nutrition? It is not just a feeding process. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond that. Now, it is a supply of nutrients to the cells of an organism for growth, for respiration, for reproduction, and other important metabolic activities. Food is the source of nutrients which supplies energy to the cells to carry out metabolic activities, the food that you eat. So what are the types of nutrients? We have autotrophic nutrition. If they say something is autotrophic, that means it has a way of producing its food by itself. It does not depend on any other organism to get its food. It can produce by itself. Okay, so we have autotrophy. The organism manufactures its own food. It can either be photosynthetic, which is holophytic, or chemosynthetic. In this case of chemosynthetic, what they do is that they use chemicals, right? They use inorganic substances to produce their own food. Now, at this stage, I'm sure you will know we have done respiration, right? And respiration is the opposite of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is just the use of carbon dioxide plus water. Of course, there must be what? Presence of chlorophyll, right? And sunlight to give you what? The glucose that would make the plant to grow. So this oxygen goes off because plants cannot keep it. Of course, they have pity on the animals around them and they bless them with the oxygen. Okay, so let's move on. We have heterotrophic. Now, organisms here depend on other organisms for their nutritional requirement. All animals and plants that lack chlorophyll, please don't forget this. Any plant without chlorophyll is said to be heterotrophic. Why? Because it cannot produce its food. Chlorophyll is needed if a plant is to make its own food by itself. Okay, and all animals, since we do not have chlorophyll, I don't know if you have seen human beings or animals with chlorophyll before. Personally, I have not seen. Okay, now they include fungi, they include bacteria, and few parasitic flowering plants. Okay, now what are the types of heterotrophic nutrition? Now we have holozoic nutrition. Holozoic, this can be herbivores, that means when you feed on herbs. Now, we have omnivores, we have carnivores too. Human beings belong to these omnivores. Then when we talk about carnivores now, we talk about organisms that like tiger, panthera leo, cheetah, and all the likes. Then saprophytic nutrition. Here, they are mainly referred to as saprophytes because they feed on dead, decaying organisms. For example, fungi. Have you ever seen spoiled food before? If you have seen spoiled bread, you see mold growing on it. The mold is a saprophyte. Why? If you discover that if the mold is increasing, the food content on which the mold is increasing or growing will be, the level of spoilage will be increasing, because as they decay the food, they use it to grow. So they feed on dead, decaying fungi, saprophytes. Then we have symbiotic nutrition. Example is lichen. I'm not sure if you are familiar with what lichen means. Lichen is a kind of association between a fungus and algae. Now, these two come together. Of course, this guy is the principal, is like the primary component is always more than the algae, and it provides only accommodation for the algae. But of course, the algae is what produces food for the fungi, because algae can photosynthesize, but fungi cannot photosynthesize. So liking is a relationship between fungi and algae. Then we have parasitic nutrition. You know that one. We have the tapeworm in our body, tapeworm in the body of animals, like we have the Taenia solium, Taenia saginata, we have Plasmodium that causes malaria. So those are the different types of heterotrophic nutrition. Then look at the questions that we have. Association between two organisms in which one of the organisms loses while the other gains. We know that one. That's a parasite. It's a parasitic relationship. Let's look at it. This is it here. Parasitism. When somebody is always gaining from you, but you are losing. This is an example of parasitic relationship. Then, an example of parasitic protozoa is Plasmodium. Paramecium, Eglina, Chlamydomonas are not parasitic. You get? So, this is the answer. Plasmodium. Of course, you know that is the causative organism or the etiological organism of malaria. Insectivorous plants are commonly found in, now pay attention, why are they said to be insectivorous? They feed on insects. Why? Because they lack nitrogen themselves. They stay in a place that do not have nitrogen, and also they cannot fix atmospheric nitrogen. So they don't have to, they grow on soil deficient in nitrogen. So let's look at it. In marshy areas, on soil deficient in magnesium, at the edge of forest, on soil deficient in nitrogen, they do not have nitrogen. So they need to feed on insects so that they get the nitrogen from them and they use it to grow. Of course, they cannot be proteinous. I mean, this kind of plant can't be proteinous. Then, next question. The part used by tapeworm to fasten itself to the host intestine. There's something that is not well pronounced in biology here. I will explain it to you. Like what the tapeworm uses to attach itself to the intestine of the host, like attaches itself to the host intestinal mucosa. Now, what is it called? Now, you are used to suckers and hooks, right? But now, we have neck and suckers, rostellum and suckers, young proglottids and neck, rostellum, hooks, and suckers. You are used to this, but we just added this one to it. Let's say this is the egg of the tapeworm, right? So this is the part here. Of course, you know that the suckers are here. These are the suckers here. These are the suckers here. Now, this place is the hooks, right? But the point is, we have some tiny, tiny projections here. So these are the rostellum. You get? Please, that's the rostellum. Okay, so the answer for this question is option D. Okay, let's look at the next question. Okay, we'll go for a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue from here.